Just remind everybody to mute, and if you need to mute them, like if you know someone's being loud, you know, you can just click right here. So your recording is started now.
One of our patients is asked Ashley out and keeps texting her work phone, when can we date? Our Petersburg stroke patient. She's like, does this happen much in my house?
How old is he?
Oh, he's had a stroke, so he has to be pretty old.
Oh, I almost had a stroke last week. I'm not that old.
Great. Today's the first. Is it only Amy? Somebody else is there.
I'm here.
I see Amy. I see Pam. Okay. Somebody else is up top and muted. HS iPad. Who's iPad 17?
Mm-hmm. iPad 17 coming in.
Good morning.
Who's that?
It's Kira.
Hi, Kira.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is that Ronnie?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. You got the number to work. All right.
Thank you.
Look at my good therapist all getting on. What's the missing, Kira? We're all OCD. Yes, ma'am. Anna? Anna. Hello? Hey, it's Jen. Yeah, if you dial, let's see. I'm on the wrong side. Hold on this side. If you want to do it on your iPhone, your telephone, you're just going to listen. It's 1-773-231-9229. And then
Let me get a double cheese egg.
49457.
Yeah. You're out of bacon? Okay, let me get a double cheese egg and bacon.
Yes, it's 149-457-2181. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right, we're ready to get started. Good morning. Just a couple of reminders. Please silence and put away all your cell phones If you could mute wherever you are, your phone or your computer, if you could go ahead and mute yourself so we're not hearing what you're doing. Okay. I'm hearing a lot of stuff. All right, and then also, if you could just not let us for just a little while we're going over this so that y'all can pay attention. There'll be a word for the day. Please text me, email me, call me, the word for the day. It'll be somewhere in the webinar. And then I know that some people had trouble listening to the first one. We've still got about 25 people that have not listened to it. So if you could call into the office and let me know if you have not listened to it so that we could try to make those arrangements. It's on Brent's computer, and we're going to try to get it so you can come by the office and listen to that. If you'll save your questions for the end, that'll be great. And if you're listening to the recording, then if you could just call me with any questions. Okay, so last week we talked about the survey results that we had when the Joint Commission Reviewer came out for our Medicare survey. This week we're going to start on the conditions of participation. Okay, so the Medicare conditions of participation, to qualify for Medicare certification and reimbursement, providers and suppliers of health services must comply with minimum health and safety standards. Basically, it's the regulations. Hold on just a second, I have to mute somebody and I'm not sure.
What do you need?
Is it the webinar?
It's either.
That's who it is. Okay. All right. So basically, they're the rules and regulations that we have to go by in order to qualify as a Medicare company. And when the surveyors come out, that is what they look at. So they have a book of standards and they have how to interpret them. If I've been in home health for numerous years, and they very, very seldom change. This year, they are changing. They've already started with the emergency preparedness plan that started in November, and January 13th, they have some new interpretations, they have some new standards, and basically they're just honing in and fine-tuning and saying this is what we're going to be looking for when we come out. So we were in good shape because we have already been under Joint Commission, and a lot of the standards that and regulations that they upgraded with Medicare, Joint Commission was already requiring us to do that. But the thing is, that's what they're going to be looking for. They're saying that when we come out, this is what we're going to do. And it's all based on better care for the patient. So the first thing, let's just start at the beginning. When we go out to admit a patient, we have an admit folder, which I hope everybody recognizes the admit folder. And the admitting person gives that folder to the patient, goes over everything that's in there. The patient has a handbook that we go over rights, responsibilities, we go over safety, we go over anything that they would need is in that book. And then they sign a consent to say that, yes, you can provide care for me, you've gone over everything, and I understand everything. So that has not changed. What they have done, though, is they have updated a few of the rights and responsibilities. The first thing that they've said is that the patient can choose a patient representative. There's a patient's legal representative or a patient-selected representative who participates in care decisions. So it could be the person that's in the home, it could be a power of attorney, it could be a patient in a group home that has a legal power of attorney that's a court appointed. It has been to oversee that. I've seen that in patients who have no family and they still want to live at home, but the court has appointed somebody or either in the executor of their estate, whatever, and they have 24-hour care and they're being taken care of because they have the money to do that. So it can be a family member or other patient advocate. The patient determines the representative's role to the extent possible. The representative's role is based on the patient's stated preference, and it should be documented in the record. Now, should be and documented, let me just put it this way. It has to be documented, okay? The surveyor will be looking for documentation of who the representative is or that the patient does not have one. And I think in Brightree...
There's a question that asked that.
Yes. I think in Brightree has tried to update with the new conditions of participation. So when so you're going to be seeing new things in Brightree, and they've already started that process. So again, whoever the patient says, if the patient says, no, I don't have anybody, or the patient says, yes, it's my daughter, it's my neighbor, it's whoever it is, you have to document that. Okay? And if they say, no, there's no one, then you have to document that. Okay? Things to remember. Information about care and rights is given to the patient as well as the representative must be documented who it is in the info given. Okay? So again, we have several times that we go out to do an admission and the caregiver's not there. Okay? Maybe the caregiver's working, or the caregiver is down the street, or the caregiver, we've had one case where there's a son that's involved and he's in Florida, okay? But if the patient says, that's my representative and I want them to be involved in my care, then we have to make sure that we get that information, what we're telling the patient, that it gets to the representative, and we document that. So good communication with the patient and the representative about care is important. And that's not only admission stuff, but that's throughout the care. That's also discharge planning, okay? So we've had several calls here in the office where there's a daughter involved, and she's involved really a lot in the beginning, and then she fades out because she might be going to work. And then we're talking to the patient who's a little forgetful but is able to manage on her own. We get ready, we start the discharge process, and we discharge the patient. We never involve the daughter again. We don't let her know what's going on, and the patient doesn't. So the daughter calls here and saying, why are you discharging my mother? Well, that's that good communication. We have to make sure, again, if it is the patient's representative, that we are involving them in the care and the decisions. The consent forms, again, when the person that goes out that does the admission, when you give them and you're going over the consent form, it has to be filled out completely. That is any other piece of paper that you have the patient sign or that you are giving the patient. It's like any of your documentation. All the questions have to be answered and all the pieces have to be filled out. So all those blanks, patient name, social security number, checking off, whatever is on that consent form has to be filled out. It's there for a reason. It's not there just because we wanted to take up space. It's there because someone has said that has to be there. So we're getting consent forms back that aren't filled out completely, don't have social security numbers, don't have that the patient has initialed, that they've gotten everything. And when the auditor comes out, they're going to be looking at that. And when they see that form, it's going to be incomplete. And basically, that is your consent that we can touch this patient. So legally, if we're not filling it out completely and correctly, then we're liable if something happens. Okay. Now, here, I really want you to listen to this one. The key definition, in advance. That means that the agency staff must complete the task prior to performing any hands-on care or patient education. This means that the first clinician in the home will need to get a consent signed and give the patient handbook with the patient folder in it. That should go the other way around. Folder with the patient handbook in it. Okay? So, and we've juggled this for years, and I know other agencies have. You have therapy and nursing scheduled together. Nursing is, if nursing is ordered, nursing is supposed to open the case. Nursing can't get there. Maybe they have an IV in the morning or maybe something else, and it's juggling schedules. So therapy gets there first, whether it's OT or PT. If therapy gets there first, you have to get the consent signed prior to touching that patient. That just makes sense. and you have to give them the folder with the rights and regulations in it, with the rights and responsibilities. Whoever makes the second visit has to go over the rights verbally. So, again, when we open a patient, we are not only just saying, here's your handbook, we're going over those things. I can't see that you're going to read every one of them, but you should know the main points. You should know what the handbook says. You should not just be giving somebody something if you have not looked at it. So if you're new to the agency and you haven't looked at the patient handbook and you're doing an admission, then shame on you, okay? Because you need to know what you're giving that patient. You need to know that that's just part of who we are, okay?
Hi, Melanie.
Yes.
This is Daniel.
Yes.
So that's a good point, but do I also have to fill out their med list? I mean, I'll go over their medications.
No.
That's supposed to be done every visit.
Right.
But do I have to write all the medications down, or should
No.
I leave that?
No. No,
Communication?
this has nothing to do with admitting the patient. It has to do with the rights of the patient, okay? It has to do with you're saying to them, and it also has to do with the consent. They are consenting for us to give care to them. Yeah. Okay?
So just the consent form, that's it.
And the folder.
And the folder, sure,
Yeah,
okay.
So I would say you're going to give them the folder, okay? The consent form says that you have the handbook there, okay? And that you've gone over the patient rights, okay?
Right.
And then you don't have to go over them verbally. Medicare is saying that the second visit, so whoever makes that second visit is the one that has to go over them verbally.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Clear as mud.
Okay? Okay, so let's clarify again. In a perfect world, whoever is supposed to open that patient would get there first. Home health is not a perfect world. I wish it was, but it's not. And somehow Medicare recognizes that because, again, if you've worked for multiple agencies, this is the real world. Therapy, or somebody gets there first. It's usually therapy. Okay? Now, if you want better coordination, then you got to coordinate with the nurse. Hey, when are you going out to see Mr. Smith? Blah, 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 blah. That's great. Okay? Again, that would be great in a perfect world. But what I'm saying is that whoever gets out there first has to give that folder to the patient and has to hand them and say, these are your rights. Okay? And you have to get a consent signed. All right. Okay, so patient rights. The patient and representative, if any, have the right to be informed of the patient's rights in a language and manner the individual understands. We sent out a text, I believe, either last week or the week before about the language line. I don't know why I'm echoing or doing something.
Somebody's got it.
Okay. All right, so please, if you do not know how to use the language line, if you do not have it on your phone, you must have that on your phone. That is a service that we pay for. If we have a patient has an interpreter, if someone in their home, let's say they speak Spanish and they have family members that speak English, okay? So the question is, can we use that? Okay, somebody's not muted and I don't know who. Oh, well. Here. All right, hold on. I'm just, all right. So the question is, can we use a family member? Yes. Medicare says that we can use a family member. Is that always an ideal situation? Well, you want to make sure that it's a family member that's got good intentions for the patient, because when we're telling the family member something, we want to make sure they're telling the same information to the patient. And I don't know about y'all, I don't speak another language, so they could be telling them anything that I say. So if you think that it's there's a question about anything, then I would use the language line, okay? But right now, Medicare is saying that we can use a family member, okay? And I know the picture's in front of the thing, but it says the home health agency must protect and promote the exercise of these rights, okay? So if there is any kind of language barrier, if there is any kind of hearing impairment, if they have a different reading level, we are supposed to accommodate that at our expense, not the patient's expense. So the patient and his representative must receive the following in writing before care is provided: the notice of the patient rights and responsibilities, that's in the handbook; information concerning the agency's transfer and discharge policies, that will be in the new handbook, because we've had to add that. We've always had a policy, but we've never had it in our handbook for the patient. The contact information for the administrator, that is something we've had to add, because we've always had, here's how to contact our agency. OASIS privacy notice, that is in the handbook. And the notice must be signed by the patient and or legal representative and maintained in the patient's record. That's your consent. If the patient's representative is not legally appointed via like guardianship or power of attorney, then information goes directly to the patient. Again, unless the patient says, this is my representative and I want them to have all the information. I want them to take care of everything. If the patient has a legally designated representative, the written notice must be provided prior to initiating care, but there is one available exception to the timing or notice of the representative. If the patient declines notice to his representative, the agency should document that decline in the patient's record. The form that is used should contain a confirmation statement that has been received. That's a lot of words, okay? Basically, again, we have to provide, if they have especially a court-appointed or a power of attorney, we have to give them the information. So if they live elsewhere, then we have to make sure that they get that information. If the patient's legal representative is not available and the patient has not declined to have them get the information, then we have 4 days after we start that care to get that to the representative. And again, it has to be documented that we sent them the information. So that is all new. We've never had to do that before. Okay, and information can be provided to the representative electronically or in written form. Email would be great. We're not emailing any patient information. We're just emailing basically the handbook to say this is what we went over. Okay. So the verbal notice of patient rights. Verbal notice of patient rights and responsibilities must also be provided in the individual's primary or preferred language. We just said that. And in a manner that the individual understands. If an interpreter is needed to fulfill this requirement, the service must be offered without charge to the patient. Verbal notice must be delivered no later than the second visit. And there we go again. So again, you can hand in the written rights and responsibilities, but by that second visit, you have to have given it to them verbally. We usually do that on the first visit. It's just, again, if that therapy gets out there before the nurse opens the patient, that's where we're going to have the issues with that. Okay? Patient notices. It's expected that agency patients will be able to confirm during a survey visit that or other interviews that they got their rights and responsibilities. So that's why it's very, very important that every time you go out, you should ask where their patient folder is. Not only are you supposed to be checking the medications in it, you're also supposed to be signing out your visit, but that's what the surveyor is going to be looking for. Okay. They're going to ask if transfer and discharge policies were provided. Again, it will be in our patient handbook. They're going to ask if it was in a language that the patient understood and in a manner that accommodated any disability, okay? So please make sure that you're asking where that patient folder is. Put it someplace in a special place so that it is, we know where it is and it's visible. If the patient's understanding of English is limited, the information must be provided in a language or format familiar to the patient and or the representative, and again, the use of the language line. If the patient speaks the language that has not been translated by the agency into its written patient rights materials, the agency can delay the notification of patient rights and responsibilities until an interpreter is present to translate. The permitted delay only extends to the second visit. There you go again. So you can give it to them in writing, but by that second visit, you have to give it to them verbally. Okay? The agency should document, and there's that word document again, that the verbal discussion of rights took place and that the patient and or his representative was able to confirm understanding. Okay? And our consent says that. I have been given this in writing and verbally, and I understand. If there is a court order, if they have a legal representative and there's a court order, we have to have a copy of that in the chart. Okay, the other thing that the patient has to be told about, one of the rights, is that they have to know how to make a complaint. Information regarding the patient right to lodge a complaint is provided to the patient, and it's documented to confirm that it was given. And that's in our patient handbook, and that's one of the things that they check off to say, yes, I was given that. Okay? The policy includes acceptance of complaints, processing of complaints, reviewing procedures, and resolution. Okay? Our complaint process, there's a lot of numbers in the handbook. There's the number to 1-800-MEDICARE, I don't like you, I'm going to call in and complain about you. Really, really, really don't want them to call that number, okay? There's the ombudsman. There's all kinds of other numbers in there. That there's Joint Commission's number if they have a complaint. But if you're out at a patient's home, first of all, again, you're going to explain that this is, if you have any problems, any questions, any concerns, please call our office, okay? If you're in a patient's home and that patient is making a complaint or talking about another nurse, another therapist, about how the office staff acted when they called, whatever it is, please let's take care of it then. Don't say, oh, it'll be all right. Don't say, oh, somebody else will take care of it. Say, let me call my supervisor and we can talk about this and take care of it now. I would rather take care of it, be proactive. It might not be anything, but if it is, let's take care of it. When we get a formal complaint, hey, I didn't like the color of my nurse's socks, then I will, whoever gets that complaint, we talk to the patient, we send a letter to them and say how we're going to resolve it. We keep a complaint book, a complaint log, so when the auditor comes, they actually ask for that book. They want to see that, so the number of complaints, if we had a trend or something like that. And that letter says how we resolved it to the patient. So again, if they say, I didn't like this nurse, and we tell them on the phone, okay, well then we will send another nurse out. We'll try not to send that nurse out, knowing that, you know, on a weekend that might be the only nurse working, you know, and they say they understand that. And then we send that in a letter to them. We keep copies of the letter, and again, we mail that to the patient. So we have to show that we have taken the complaint and that we have what the resolution is, and that we have told the patient that. Okay, so the word for the day, I'm going to find it. Oh, dear me. I just had it. Sorry. Are there any questions while I'm finding the word? Yes? No?
I think we need to clarify.
Melanie, I have a stupid question.
Okay.
Melanie?
Yeah, go
Can you
ahead.
hear me?
Uh-huh.
On the end of the, when we're doing, you know, at the very end of the assessment, and it says that we've given these things written and verbal, you know, the rights and all that stuff, how everything's new on that screen. Do we check that every time or just when we do it? Like, if the admitting nurse goes out there and gives them all the, you know, their patient rights and all that kind of stuff, when I go back out there, do I check that box too, like because they have it in the house, or do we just not check that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know why you would need to check that if it's already been done on the admission. I'm not sure.
You have to check it to get out of the note. You have to check that you talked about their patient, that they had their patient rights, and that it was given either written or verbal. I can't get out of an OT eval without it.
Yeah, if it's something that you have to do, then I would, if you were checking that on your form, then I would bring that. It's probably good. I guess good reminder.
That's the second visit.
But I would pull out that patient folder and say, hey, I see you're on admission, you signed your consent, and the nurse went over the rights and responsibilities, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
And then you can check it off. So I just wouldn't check it blindly unless you look at that folder.
Right.
Because again, if that consent's not filled out completely, then that person who admitted didn't, then you're saying something that you're not. Really true. Okay. All right, so let me give you the word for the day. It's pillory. P-I-L-L-O-R-Y.
Daniel doesn't like to do that.
L-L-O.
P-I-L-L-O-R-Y.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let's just recap. So again, this is just a little bit about patient rights and responsibilities. You really need to look at the handbook, okay? Because you might have some questions about those rights. I didn't take the time to go over every single right, okay? So please make sure you look at the handbook. We have, starting January 13th, we're going to have to give it to every new patient, but we're also going to have to give it to every existing patient, because if the order came out January 14th, she would expect everyone to have those same handbooks with all the new regs in it. Okay, so it's going to be a big transition after the holidays of what we have to do and who we have to get everything out to. All right. So please make sure you're looking at that, and then next week we're going to be talking about your comprehensive assessment and the medication review. And I know that's something new, so we're going to go over the medications again, okay, just to make sure that everybody understands that. So thank you for listening. And again, I know this is a lot of information, but it's not anything we shouldn't be doing. Again, it's to make sure that the patient and that they understand. Okay, thanks.
I really need to clarify, because let's say if Ken goes out before me,